my fellow Americans, Michiganders, those in Jackson, Grand Rapids, Lansing, and Detroit. Thank you for tuning in to ACVN, the American Conservative Values Network and African American Fox News Network. You will see the new logo coming up in our back screen in the very near future. Dedicated and committed to those precepts and principles that have made this nation great: the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, and the Emancipation Proclamation. Thank you for tuning in from time to time, taking time out of your busy schedule to engage us on dialogue, trialogue, and other things that we feel are relevant to us all. I'm looking out at my audience here, not at the camera, but nevertheless, we just thank you right now for tuning in, and we want to encourage you to tune into this program as it comes on 5 to 6 days a week. We're happy to talk about those things that are relevant to our future. Thank you again. I have with me my very dear friend and co-host, Wayne Bradley, director of the conservative television in the city of Detroit and southeastern Michigan. He is a celebrated personality in this area of communication and has done an extraordinary job this year at educating the community on issues pertaining to conservative values and Christian thought as it pertains to politics. Thank you, Mr. Bradley, for being with us today. How are you?
All right, my pleasure, Bishop Combs.
Today, we know that there has been much talk on the national circuit about Benghazi and the mishandling of the situation with Christopher Stevens, the ambassador that was killed there, and other 3 to 4 other Navy SEALs. What we are concerned about in this discussion is what African Americans understand is a responsibility by this administration to at least give a credible, accurate, and complete account of what took place. It is said that they, in real time, watched the attack. It is said the CIA refused to give the military and protection and support that they requested early on and up until the attack took place. And so there seems to have been some gross degree of negligence with regard to actions on the part of the State Department, the CIA, and this White House with respect to Benghazi Gate.
Right.
Your thoughts on what Barack Obama needs to be honest about with the American people on the subject matter?
Well, I think it's even more amazing watching how the media has covered it. Obviously, we would love for President Obama to be honest about the situation, and I think that the thing that's really amazed me is, again, he's had the cover of the media. They knew that this attack was coming. The emails that came, they knew, even immediately after it happened, they knew this wasn't just some kind of, the way they made it seem, a demonstration over video, which was, again, the most dishonest part about this whole situation, is that they've tried to make it appear as if this was some kind of protest. And we know from everything, you don't need someone to tell you that if an attack happened on 9/11, that this was just not an organized, this was organized, rocket launchers and things of that nature. This is not from a normal protesting situation. And I think that it's very fair to ask that the Obama administration be open and honest about what happened in Benghazi and some of these other scenarios that are going on with the Fast and the Furious. There's been a lot of issues where the Obama administration just has not been honest with the people here.
Well, then, of course, there is a call by Congress to begin hearings into this matter. It's very normal for the party that is not in power to call and question the party that is in power, to hold them accountable on these kinds of scandals or potential dispositions in which there's controversy surrounding the decision of whatever administration is in power. This time the Democrats are in power. They lost 60-plus seats to us Republicans in the sweep. They're probably going to lose some more seats in this midterm election and presidential campaign. Barack Obama, it looks as though he's going to lose the election. The swing states are swinging in Romney's place. And no one has anything negative to say about Barack Obama and Michelle and the very beautiful family members, Sancha and Malia, with respect to them as people. We're talking about policy issues, ideology, execution of the office of president. And in these 3 areas, there has been some failure on no one but Barack Obama's part, because he has not provided the leadership on a global level in foreign policy, because he has led an appeasement campaign.
An apology tour for the whole time he's been in office.
And so would you speak to that appeasement campaign, appeasing Muslims, appeasing nations that have now risen up against our embassies and killed our people and perpetrated terrorist attacks against our installations and assets. And in addition to that, we find that this is a situation where he, in this last most recent episode, tried to blame the Christian culture. Well, Christianity has nothing to do with this.
It's amazing to me, though, on the apology tour that he's gone on for the first couple of years here. We're in a civilized society, and I think that as civilized people, we believe in when you have a conflict with someone, you should try to talk it out first. I mean, that is the culture of America. When you have a problem, you don't naturally just go strictly to fighting people. But what we don't understand, these cultures is not a civilized culture. They don't believe in talking it out. They believe once you become a negotiator, they've already won the war. If America comes and starts talking to terrorists, they believe they've won already. They don't believe in negotiation. They believe in the power of the gun. And essentially that we're not from that kind of culture and we don't understand it. But that's the only thing they respect over there in the Middle East in particular. Negotiation is not going to work for them.
And in addition to that, there is accusations from the American Family Association against the Obama administration of preferentialism for Islam. In April of 2010, Christian leader Franklin Graham was disinvited from the Pentagon National Day of Prayer event because of complaints from the Muslim community.
Right.
In April of 2010, the Obama administration required the rewriting of government documents and a change in administration vocabulary to remove terms that are deemed offensive to Muslims, including jihad, jihadists, terrorists, radical Islam, etc. 2010, while every White House traditionally issues hundreds of official proclamations and statements on numerous occasions, this White House avoided traditional biblical holidays and events, but regularly recognized major Muslim holidays. This is discrimination to the high heaven, if you will,
right,
or high or low hell, or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
And this is an affront to those of us who embrace the tenets of Christianity. We have no issue with our Muslim brother.
Not at all. Not at all.
Good Muslim friends from Iraq, good Muslim friends who, in fact, are in Dearborn and Coldwater,
right,
and other parts of the United States where large Muslim populations dwell, such as in California, in Texas, and in this state, just to mention a few. So the fact of the matter is, it seems that this administration is going to help probably propagate the religion of Islam more so than any administration in the history of American democracy. How say you?
I agree, and I think that, again, like you said, we have respect, and we want to fellowship with our friends that are that might be Muslim. And again, George Bush was the same way. He was very sensitive to not offend every Muslim, but we have to be realistic and look at it and say that this is Muslim terrorists that want the destruction of not only Israel but of America. And so how do we handle that? We don't handle it by apologizing and coddling them. We go to the problem and we take care of the problem. And then what you had here over in Benghazi, the exact problem was that we're coddling. We told our soldiers they couldn't have weapons. They requested weapons and they turned them down. The Department of Justice knew that this was a situation where this could have happened, and I think it's just embarrassing that we ignored the situation and let that happen.
It's a travesty of the first rank. Also now, as we continue to have this discussion of policy in the Middle East, Syria continues to be embattled in a civil war. Afghanistan still has its host of problems. Iraq is still trying to transition itself into its form of democracy that has been formulated through the Bush administration. And this administration, for the most part, it's interesting how in this particular administration, in this election, during Bush years, you heard from the generals.
Right.
During the Obama years, you've heard from Barack Obama. He is the one that defines the narrative. He's the one that writes the narrative, and he seems to have silenced the voice of his generals. How say you?
I mean, well, that's kind of his whole thing. So his ego really controls this whole. From the last couple of years, and the media loves him, so he has such a chummy relationship with them that he's not forced to answer any questions. Even through these debates, these were the first times he was even being openly challenged by the media. So I think it's unfortunate that he's put down more of the more trusted people that I would want to hear from in a time of war. I want to hear from the guys on the ground. I want to hear from the generals, the men that actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, the men and women.
Yeah, men and women that know what they're doing, as opposed to the president that's, like you said, spinning a narrative. I mean, over the last couple of months, again, it's kind of like he just does what he wants to do, and no one challenges it on. I think that's kind of like a dangerous precedent. They do that in Cuba. They do that in Korea, where your leader just does what he wants, and the media doesn't even hold him accountable. And I think that we're kind of going down that slippery slope right now.
Well, I agree with you, and as we move toward domestic issues, jobs, the Obama administration has no record to run on. Hence, they're running from their record, and they make big things of small issues, or big issues of small things, as Barack Obama said in 2008. Now he has to eat the very medicine, or eat the very words that he put out there, and take a bit of his own medicine. This is, again, something that there's nothing personal with regard to Barack Obama in this city. I'm probably the only one that has ever dined with him and met him and know him personally as a person. He's an extraordinary personality. He has fascinating charisma. He's an affable, an admirable person, if you will, if I can use these particular adjectives and adverbs to describe his persona. But in fact, he has not lived up to the job and to the promises that he made when he ran 4 years ago. It is obvious that Mitt Romney has a superior set of resume and credentials, or credentials that make up his resume.
That's really all it comes down to.
He has the experience in creating jobs. He has the track record in creating jobs. It is, in fact, a no-brainer. It is stupidity on the part of voters to vote for anything other than jobs and for the things that are essential and substantive when it comes down to an election as crucial as this. How say you? And
when you really look at not just the jobs that he's created with Bain Capital, that's what he's getting a lot of credit for, but I like to look at the Olympics in 2002.
Yes, the 2000.
When they were gonna take it out of Utah and send it somewhere else, Mitt Romney came there and turned that whole situation around. I mean, that's the exact kind of leadership we need right now in the White House. I think that a lot of people feel that they gave President Obama a chance, and for the most part, people did. And he just has not lived up to what he promised us he would do. His exact words were, unemployment is still at 8%, then I don't deserve a second term. Now, in the last week or two, he got a poll that it went to 7.98%. But the reality is that nothing's changed. We've been running in place for 4 years.
Well, the reality is that the 7.98% included the inclusion of part-time jobs that
Christmas,
have never been
holiday season
but have never been included in the jobs report in history. So the Obama administration has certainly lived up to the predictions of Jack Welch, who said, "There you go. You can't debate." So you change the unemployment numbers to make yourself look
the next
good.
day. I mean, like literally the next day. And like in the media, the problem with that is the media takes that and runs with it. And you have a lot of uninformed people that watch this, and this is the only place they get their news from. They're watching MSNBC, CBS, and then the next
those
day.
Numbers are very, very anemic as we speak. The numbers of viewers on MSNBC are quite bankrupt if you look in terms of compared to the Fox News network. That's why we are, once again, the African-American Fox News Network. Good to see you out there. Having said that, then, our thoughts are that the media needs to, or persons need to tune into the media that is fair and balanced. Fox News is trying to present Romney's side of the thing, at least in some degree, so that persons can weigh the Romney factual and truthful data against the false information that's coming from MSNBC and other stations with respect to Barack Obama.
The media. It's not just, I mean, I wish it was just MSNBC.
Well, but MSNBC is one of the most probably blatant.
They don't pull any punches about it. I mean, they call Mitt Romney names that you would think would be used in comedic shows or something like that, but these are actually journalists. Chris Matthews, I'm sitting here, I mean, he takes it personal.
He's a bit insane. I think he's a bellicose individual, if you will. Please, go ahead.
He takes it very personal, and after the first debate, I'm watching Chris Matthews almost give President Obama advice on how to do a debate better. I mean,
well,
that's not the job
if President
of
Obama needs Chris Matthews to defend them, such lunatic of a personality in journalism, then we are in, quite frankly, some very bad shape as a nation. It is unfortunate to see Chris Matthews resorting to Machiavellian tactics in journalism in an attempt to save the presidency of Barack Obama. But the fact of the matter is, you need to run on your record. Barack Obama could successfully, if he was honest, simply because he's perceived as being an honest fellow, he could say, this is what happened, these are my mistakes, we learned from them, here's what we're going to do to fix it, let's go forward from here. If we achieve this here, then we can achieve this over the next 4 years if you give me another chance. But he's the one that said that if, in fact, his particular policies, which he passed the first 2 years in office when he had a Democratic Senate and House, did not work for the nation. He
Right.
deserved to be limited to a one-term presidency.
Those were his words.
We're here now, and a self-fulfilling prophecy is taking place before our very eyes. Let's talk about this hurricane. The effect the hurricane probably will have as it heads straight for the White House.
Right.
It seems to be gale force winds of 100 miles an hour or close to that, battering the shores of New York, Virginia,
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, and the East Coast, and headed straight toward the White House. Some see this as prophetic. I didn't say pathetic. I think the White House is pathetic. But some see this as prophetic and an act of God. I'm not going to say that is, and I'm certainly not going to say that it's not, given the fact that this White House has embraced such tenets as gay marriage and tried to redefine the bedrock of the institution that has led to democratic and social stability.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the lunacy of this administration in putting these kinds of policies out there, promoting gay marriage, and then these weak-kneed and spaghetti backbone preachers who won't stand up for the Word of God or the gospel of Jesus Christ or for values because they are so personality-driven? Your thoughts?
I think we've talked about this before, Bishop Combs. I personally don't understand how a man of God, who calls himself a man of God, can stand by someone with the kind of policies that President Obama has. It's one thing to say you're going to pray for the man or say something of that nature, which I believe we all should do. But when you're actually sitting there saying that I support everything that this man says, and on Sundays you actually are talking about this in church, I have a real problem with that. And I respect the actual pastors that are willing to stand up and say this is wrong. If you don't support Mitt Romney, I can't tell you to support Barack Obama. That's, at least have some backbone, like you said. And I think that that's a big issue in our community because the black pastor has been trusted since we've been here to help give us the good information on Sundays. And when you go in there and you get the Word of God and you get a mix of bad politics, it kind of leads us in this direction. I mean, Detroit has a ton of black pastors that could actually lead you in the right direction. But again, we're kind of going what's popular and not wanting to scare away the folks that they do have at the church by supporting President Barack Obama. And I think that's more of it. They're scared to even speak out against him because of the passion that people have for this man.
Well, and they may be afraid, and the Bible says, cry loud and spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet. Show my people their transgressions, and the house of God their sins. So this is the declaration and the duty of the so-called prophet and pastor of the New Testament church. The unfortunate thing is, as you stated, that the black pastor may have been trusted, but there have been very bad black pastors in times past, and those, in fact, that have embraced religion have exploited multitudes of people.
Right.
Father Divine, Daddy Grace, Prophet Jones, and even Reverend Ike, who was numbered among the Pentecostals at one time, and left and went into preaching a doctrine that the lack of money is the root of all evil. Became one of the most successful philanthropists, not say philanthropists, but should I say capitalist preachers, preachers of not the gospel, preachers of capitalism in the history of religion. And I'm sure under the prosperity doctrine of many of these so-called preachers today that are out here calling themselves representing God, that some have even prospered as much or done better than he.
Right.
But these speak very poorly for all of us.
I agree.
It's unfortunate that when you get a blend of bad ministry, it has a tendency to tarnish and paint all of us with the same brush or cloud the eyes of the masses to see through the prism of righteousness clearly, so that we can be, of course, distinguished from them. Yes, you may.
How do you deal with that situation when you, as a bishop, and knowing that that some of these issues might go against maybe someone in your congregation? How do you feel about preaching the word and being honest about where you stand with these kind of situations?
Well, I have a track record of always speaking very frankly and candidly on all issues, political issues, on theological and religious issues, on social issues, and making sure that when it comes to my disposition on the pulpit, that it is always in line with the sound theology of the Christian culture and the teachings of the apostles and the apostolic doctrine. So I have a pattern of what you call consistency.
Yes, sir.
One of my predecessors who was very much so involved in my training said, whatever you are, make sure that you are consistent. If you're going to stand for something, to be consistent in standing for that. If you believe something, be consistent in your belief in defending that something that you believe. So I've been very fortunate to be known as a person that is consistent. If I say that I'm conservative, I'm consistently conservative. If I say that I'm a Republican, I'm consistently a Republican. If I say I'm pro-life, I'm consistently pro-life. Pro-family, I'm consistently pro-family. If I'm pro-new birth experience and gospel, I'm consistently pro-birth, pro-new birth and pro-gospel of Jesus Christ. And if I am consistently against gay marriage or against false doctrine or against prosperity preachers or against exploiting people from the pulpit, I consistently have maintained my position on those subjects and themes so that people know where I stand. No one has to try to investigate.
Right.
Because,
right there.
yes, there's no enigma about my philosophical or theological or personal disposition. And so I try not to become entangled in the cloud of enigmism, if you will, or mystery. And I think that this is where individuals who are lost in their identity, when they're preaching for money, when they're preaching for a paycheck, when they're on the payroll, they have to worry about livelihood and lifestyle and quality of life issues. Hence, they're very worried because their preaching is connected to their pocketbook as to what and how they say, what they say, and how they say it.
Right.
And this is how I've been fortunate to forego those because I work a regular job like everyone else. I'm not saying every preacher has to do that,
Right.
but every preacher does need to reach an understanding if he is a true man or woman of God, though some men don't believe in women preachers, but we do. But if he's a true man and woman of God, they need to take their position based on a set of principles that are the underpinnings and the pillars of their belief.
Right.
And then they need to stand on that because fads come and go.
Yes. Yes.
Political themes come and go. Popularity of political issues come and they go. But one scripture says, "The grass withereth, and the word, the flower fadeth away, but the word of my God, or the word of our God, shall stand forever." So the only consistency we really have is the Holy Scriptures, the fundamentalist literal interpretation of those things in the Scripture that are to be interpreted literal, and those things that have to do with subject matters that are dealing with Christology and dealing with eschatology, which has to do with prophetic things for the future, the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel, and other prophecies in between. Those things need to be dealt with in their symbolic context.
Right.
And we try to make sure that we deal with all of these things in their rightful order. Your thoughts on that? You asked me the question.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
asking you the question.
I admire the stance that you take on that, and I wish that, honestly, more of our leaders in our communities, in particular men of God, would take that position.
You're too nice to me. Thank you.
No, seriously, because like I said, you go to a lot of churches, and you can see some of the things that are going on there, from choir singing to everything else, that some of these things are not important to these men here, and like I said, I'm honored to be with you to listen to exactly the right way
You're too nice.
to do that. So,
well, thank you. Well, with regard to our position with respect to 2 minutes, well, with regard to our position with respect to this campaign, the Romney campaign seems to have picked up a great deal, thank you, of momentum, and it looks to me like he's tied in Ohio. The last poll I saw today, he was tied in Ohio. He's tied with women. He's up in one poll in Florida, 11 points. In another poll, he's up 7 points.
right.
In almost every metrics, and the person I listen to, Ray Snell, is Rasmussen and Dick Morris.
Right.
Dick Morris is running a whole gambit of polls, which seems to reveal that Mitt Romney is on a trajectory to win this election somewhere between 12 and 72 electoral votes. Now, how do I know? I don't know. Who am I? You have a hurricane headed straight for the White House. You have New York and Philadelphia and some of the other cities in the pathway, New Jersey, they're going to be smashed along the way. That's all liberal town.
I'm hearing excuses from these guys already about that.
I'm not saying that God is getting them because they're liberal, because many conservatives are ungodly too.
Yes.
But I'm simply making the point that it looks to me like this is going to be a game changer
Okay.
of epic proportions, and I certainly am looking forward to the Monday morning quarterback, and I guess it would have to be Wednesday morning because election's on Tuesday.
Yes, indeed.
But on the Wednesday morning quarterbacking, that we're going to hear from those persons who are in the media and journalists who see their programs coming to a close after 4 years. A short-lived honeymoon for them, and putting their man in there and purporting secular, progressive, socialist agenda things, and then now that coming to an end, where Mitt Romney will come in with a more moderate agenda.
Right.
Now, obviously, Mitt Romney has proven that he's willing to move to the center. He did that in Massachusetts, I believe it was, where he was the governor. If not, New Hampshire, wherever it was. I thought it was Massachusetts.
He was Massachusetts governor,
Yes,
Republican governor, but it was 88% Democrats.
85 to 87% Democratic in the House and the
Hard
Senate.
to get anything done if he didn't do that.
And he did reach across the aisle and got many things done, and they achieved what is certainly a model for the rest of the nation. The voters know this.
Right.
I think that Romney has won the independent voter. I think that Romney has converted a swing now in the women's vote from somewhere between 11 and 18 points down, 11 to 16 points down, to evening the score there. Hispanics will continue to vote for Barack Obama because they don't know any better, and ultimately it's our job to educate them with respect to both language barriers and politics, because it seems that both of those areas that we're having some problems with them in.
Yes, sir.
African Americans are very disappointed with Barack Obama. By and large, it is my prediction that Barack Obama will lose at least 10% of the vote he received from African Americans first time around because of his support for gay marriage.
Do you think that vote, this is a question, do you think they're going to vote for Romney or they just won't vote?
They're not going to vote for Romney necessarily because, again, Mormonism's setbacks and negative elements are that Mormonism has a discriminatory past with regards to the belief system.
Yes.
So because many do not know much about Mormonism, and as I mentioned before to the group of students I spoke to earlier, that I graduated from the Howard and Jenny J. Stoddard Mormon Institute at Michigan State University on East Campus across the street from Hubbard Hall. 2 years there in seminary school, because we had to attend the school to live in the housing. And so I have certification and theological training in Mormonism. I cannot support the religion with respect to it being able to assimilate into Christianity.
Right.
But Mitt Romney's not running as a Mormon.
No, he's not.
Running as a Republican politician.
A businessman.
And as a person with the proper skill set, which does not include his religious credentials, to get the job done. And his skill set is superior. When it is compared to Barack Obama's, his credentials, his resume, his skills, his experience, his achievements, his track record exceeds Barack Obama's head and shoulders as far as the heavens are above the earth. I'm sorry to use that hyperbole, to use this in comparison to President Obama. So President Obama really would have done well, and Mitt Romney would have done well when he was debating President Obama, to let President Obama know that because he had been dishonest about Benghazi, because he had failed in his leadership as the President of the United States, because he had said himself that if he did fail, he only deserved one term, that he was there. I'm here to help you accomplish what you said needed to be done in the event that you would arrive at this disposition. We were riven at this. You have not done what you said to do. So I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you move out of the White House, and I'm ready to go in and take the job.
Yes,
That's
sir.
really what should have been said. Your thoughts? Final
Well,
words.
the moderator tried to help and bail him out. I mean, Mitt definitely jumped on it. He saw when he was not being honest. He even asked him once or twice. He looked back. I thought that was the best part of the debate. He looked back and said, "Are you sure? Is that your answer?" And as soon as he said that moderator realized that President Obama was getting caught in a lie, and so she jumped in and tried to save him, only to come after the show and say that Mitt Romney was being honest.
We're talking Candy Crowley.
Yes.
Well, obviously, all the moderators seem to be Obama supporters. He had everything, basically, as far as the stars were aligned, to his advantage.
Exactly.
The problem is he was not up to the job, the task, and that's why his showing was so poor. The
And
first
speaking
time
on his record. I
Yes,
mean,
and
when you're actually speaking on your record, he didn't have to do that in 08.
Absolutely.
When he was a junior senator with no real voting record, he had came in present on most of his votes. Now you actually have a record, and it's not pretty.
Exactly. Well, he's missed most of his national security meetings. The media does not know that. but he has missed most of his national security meetings. He has been traveling around campaigning while people are losing their lives at consulates and at embassies and in foreign mission installations, while he should be on the job as Commander-in-Chief. President Obama has proven that he is a historic figure. He's proven that he is an extraordinary personality when it comes to charisma.
Right.
He's an amazing speaker, but he does not have the skill set to be President of the United States, hence his job grading for his job performance. We have to give him a failing grade. Now, he gives himself an incomplete. Well, I'll give it. We'll check the incomplete. We have to say you can't complete it the next term.
Right, it's there.
You got to try to come and do that some other time.
Exactly.
Because incomplete in our interpretation means that you have failed to live up to your promises, and you're the one that said if you fail to live up to your promises, you should be limited to one term. Incomplete means one term. That is the commercial that the Republicans need to run. You need to have him making that statement that, number one, if he doesn't do the job, he should be limited to one term. Number two, he gives himself an incomplete. You put those two commercials together, you know who to vote for. This is ACVN, the American Conservative Values Network. Thank you for tuning in to Black Fox News Network. We are the new Fox News Network, and we will be bringing this to you on a regular basis. God bless you. God love you. And heaven smile upon you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.